Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. Right, as you probably know, I've recently finished doing the conversion and green stuff work on this Royal Guard mini, and I thought I would just do a video on green stuff and maybe throw a few ideas and tips that I use in case it might be useful to you. And I'm not actually going to show you how to green stuff, but as I said, I'm just going to show you, just run through a few tips and ideas. So first of all is the actual green stuff itself, which obviously you can buy from Games Workshop. They sell it. It's expensive basically. Don't buy it from GW. It's just way overpriced, the amount of green stuff that you get. Now the green stuff that I use is from Gale Force 9. Now this cost me £10 for these two tubes, which to be fair is probably still overpriced compared to what you can get on eBay. But it's very convenient for me to get this from my local hobby store, and I'm not actually 100% sure how much green stuff I've got here. I mean, if I rolled this into strips, just like the stuff you can get off eBay, I think it would actually be a lot of green stuff. It certainly lasts me a long time. Nice thing about this now is the previous wobble the tripod. The previous green stuff that I was getting was actually called grey stuff. This is also from Gale Force 9. It used to be these two colours, you mix them together, it makes grey. And it seems like Gale Force 9 have changed now over to this, which is fantastic, because the biggest pain about this grey stuff is, I mean, it's fine just for normal hobby work, but when I'm showing stuff off on my blog and on YouTube, it's very difficult to actually see the work that I've done. So at least if it's green, it's easy to see. So I was very happy with that change. Okay, next, so mixing this stuff together. And that's one advantage of having two different pots of green stuff. When you have the strip together, the join in the middle where they're sort of almost mixed, goes quite hard in the middle. I always found I had hard bits, but when they're individual like this, that doesn't happen. So yes, when you mix it together, you have three options. The first option is a 50-50 mix of green stuff, which is probably you would use most of the time. But if you want something which is going to be maybe a bit more cloth-like or flowing, you might want to make a slightly softer mix. So you'd have slightly more of the, what I'm going to call the green. Is it yellow green? I don't know what colour that is. Anyway, a little bit more of this to this, so probably like a 60-40 mix. And that will make it easier to make the cloth areas flow. And then on the flip side of that, if you're doing something quite hard edged, like the side of a tank or something, you might want to make that a bit harder, the mix. So you'd maybe go for a 60-40 mix to make the green stuff go much harder. So that's one little tip. And of course, when you're mixing it, dip your fingers in a little bit of water because it makes it much easier, it makes it less sticky. So water and green stuff is always good. Okay, the next tip would be don't mix up too much. I'm going to come to some tips in a minute about if you do mix too much up. But yeah, just start really small. You can always mix more up, but yeah, don't massive blobs. The green stuff goes much bigger, longer than you think. I mean, a bit of green stuff on the end of your finger, which looks quite small, when you start putting that into a tiny little gap that you're going to fill in on your model, it's actually huge, and you'll be cutting it right down to a tiny bit. So yeah, don't take too much off. Okay, in terms of the tools, I only have two tools. Do all my green stuff on two tools, and that is the standard GW sculpting tool, which I use. I don't really use the knife area, to be fair. I only use this little area, which I find is quite good for applying it to the model. So what I would do is I'd wet this, put a tiny bit of green stuff on, and then push it into place. Like so. Now obviously if there's no water, that will stick and start going everywhere, so make sure it's nice and watered down, and then yeah, just push it into place. And once it's into place, I'd put that down and I'd actually do the rest of the work with this, which is a colour shaper, which is basically it's like a silicone brush, and the green stuff does not stick to this. Now having said that, I still like to water this as well as I'm working. But effectively, this can be used to just push the green stuff and spread it out where you want it to go. The great thing about this is if you do have to push your green stuff into an area, or maybe put it down so it goes flat, you end up with a load of fingerprints and stuff. This is fantastic for taking that out. Just wet it up and just do this, and it just takes those fingerprints out and makes it nice and flat. Now these come in all different shapes and sizes, and to be fair, if I was doing a lot more green stuff work than I already do, I would like to have a selection of different tools, different ends and bevels and stuff, but as it stands I just have this one. And I did all of this green stuff here with this one tool. So these little grooves on the cloth, that is literally done just by pushing these in to the slot like this, and then just shaping it down using this tool. So it's very, very usable, and it really, really, really helps when you're doing green stuff. If you don't have one of these, get one. I got mine, I think, off eBay, and it cost me about £3. So yeah, this is a flat chisel from Colour Shaper, which is Royal Sovereign Limited UK, and this is a size 0. Okay, right, so that's what I do for that. From there on, I think I've already said this in my other videos, but excuse me, do one section at a time. Don't get a massive big blob of green stuff, push it in, and then try and shape that into what you want the end result to be. That's just, well, it may be doable, but it's not how I find it works. What I find it's best to do one section, or what I call a layer at a time. So it's one section, you get it looking quite good, and then go in and let that dry. Normally I would find 3 hours is the minimum to let it dry. I like to leave mine 4 hours if I can. I find it's pretty much fully set by then. And then go on to the next layer, and it's gradually building it up. If you want to see me do that, I do have the series of videos of me making this, and you can get a rough idea of how I did that. Okay, next tip is, if you do make too much green stuff up, then don't waste your green stuff. What I do is I have a selection of bits and pieces that I like to do with my spare green stuff, because you do tend to always mix a little bit too much up. And if I make way too much, like this section here, I just roll it into this shape, and once that becomes hard, like now, this is perfect for cutting into a Necron crystal. I'll have a video actually in my archives, I'll try and put a link in the description, of me how to make Necron crystals out of green stuff. So yeah, that will become a Necron crystal. And what I also like to do is make different shapes. So this one here I just rolled up into a tube, which is, you know, bendy, so I could potentially bend that into areas, or I could maybe like cut the end off. It could be like the end of a staff if I've got a little staff section that needs replacing. And I've made a slightly thicker version of that. All these bits here that I've made are leftovers from that green stuff. So even me knowing not to mix too much green stuff up, I still mix too much green stuff. It's quite difficult not to do that. I also made this like pointy shaped section, which I thought might be quite useful to put on the end of a spear or a sword or something like that. Just some random shapes really, because it, you know, when you are doing conversion, sometimes you think, oh, I wish I had a tiny little square piece. And then you can have a look in your green stuff like section, and you might actually have made one already. This one here I just made into like a rock really for a base. So I've got I just shaped it up, and then I got a sieve, and I just pushed the sieve onto it to make it like stipply. So that could potentially be a little rock on a base. So yeah, don't waste your green stuff. Don't put it in the bin. I mean, if you want to keep a tiny bit of green stuff, you know, to the side, so you can check if it's dry or not. That's quite useful. But yeah, don't put your green stuff in the bin. Make some sort of shape, a little piece, you know, a little board or anything really, because that could come quite useful in the future. Okay, so I think that's the majority of my tips there that I can think of at the moment anyway. Hopefully that was useful to you. Hopefully you've got something new from that. And I suppose the only last tip would be just don't aim for perfection when you are doing green stuff. Practice, keep trying, try again, accept that that was the best you could do, you know, on that particular green stuff session at that time. And you can always go back to it, so you can always start again. But primarily, don't set your sights too high, because if you aim for perfection, you won't be happy. I mean, this guy here, even this guy here, which, to be fair, I'm very, very happy with, but it's still not perfect. There's still little areas I think, I potentially could have done better with that. But you have to accept a particular level that you get to, and you know, maybe the next time you do it, you've got more experience, and maybe you can do a slightly better job. But yeah, just don't set your sights too high. Just do the best that you can on that particular build. Okay, that's it from me. Thanks for watching.